What's going on? Welcome in, everybody. This week we are featuring trainer Smith, Sherrise Smith.
Hey, hey.
And our first topic of this week is going to be, did they get their butt kicked or did they quit? We can separate it out, but want to get your opinion on the Clippers and the Celtics exit. Do you just flat out get stomped out when the other team is better, or did both teams seem to quit? Did they get undercoached? Were they too old? What's your opinion on how each of these teams got put out?
Well, hold on before we get into that. What
Okay.
about them Lakers? What about them Lakers? They got
Oh,
stomped
really?
out too. They got stomped out too.
Are we
we'll
really going? Are we really
Yes.
going there now?
Yes, we are.
Well,
Okay.
I'm a Laker fan. I love my Lakers, but we can't exclude them from the butt kicking. They were sitting there with their hands on the table getting paddled too.
No, not necessarily. Okay, they had
What do you mean
other.
not necessarily? They got
They
they
had
got
other.
punted. They
No,
got punted out
no.
of the playoffs.
They had other extenuating factors that were going on. Okay. Number
Hey,
one,
AKA
we're
coach,
here to be real.
AKA coaching.
well, I was about to go there because
Let's
it's a
go.
first year coach. There were not adjustments that needed to be made. Okay. Number one. Number two, they also didn't have a shooter, so they couldn't spread the floor. Number one.
Then what
So
was your bench full of? What is Vincent there for? What is um your third best player throwing up threes from the half court line for then if you don't have no shooter?
I think that is the culture of basketball right now, and that's the problem. And that was the problem with the Celtics. They lived by the three and they died by the three, for example. Okay.
But they were still able to win that first game without Jason Tatum.
Because the threes were going in. They were lucky. Hadley, would you not agree?
You know what? I think I'm in agreement with you to a certain extent. I think that playoff basketball, when you start locking in, everybody's first, second, and third options because you've watched so much film, you're not going to have those options. And if you are only shooting threes, you refuse to take layups, then yeah, you put yourself as a one-trick pony. And if it's not going in, you're in trouble. So I
Well,
kind of agree
well,
with you on that.
let me bring this up because, like, I think it was Charles Barkley brought this up, and I was also listening to a podcast this morning with KG. The mid range, the 1-2, like where is that? Like, look at how the Lakers played, the Clippers played. They dribbled the air out the ball versus moving the ball and then cutting. We are not seeing that anymore.
But in the
Everybody
playoffs,
wants.
aren't we trying to in the playoffs? That's the go between where I was going to ask question. When you're talking about slowing the game down, how much of that extra dribbling are you doing, or are you trying to get to your action faster because you need more touches?
You don't need more touches if you move the ball. You can't. You look at the Lakers, for example, and Hadley, maybe you can agree with me on this. Is soon as LeBron or Luca got the ball, it was 4 out. Everybody was stagnant. Nobody was moving. Nobody was cutting. Nobody was setting screens. That's not basketball. Like, we're not
Yeah.
playing soccer.
Yeah, I think that's the thing when you have ball dominant players and going back to that Lakers specifically, you have a player that you bring in 20 something games before the playoffs start. You're still working on the continuity and the chemistry, and then you having this isolation type situation. And teams start doubling up, they start loading up. And if you don't have movement, yeah, you're going to be prone to not getting very productive offensive possessions. So, yeah, I think that's true. Um, I think most of the teams we're watching who are still in the playoffs, you look at Denver, you look at New York, you look at OKC, all of those teams have players who can get into the teeth of the defense and make a pull-up jump shot. I mean, Mikal Bridges is hitting 15-footers. We know Jalen Brunson is hitting those. Shea lives off the mid-range. And a lot of Denver's action comes with that high post movement with Jokic, where he can dissect from inside the three-point line. So, yeah, I think a lot of it is taking advantage of that middle third that people don't. Everybody's thinking three, everybody's thinking layup, but really it's that in-between game where you have to have a lot of action. And those teams that are
Well,
still remaining are showing that.
I agree with you. And wouldn't you guys both agree that that's what's missing is the in-between game? And as I had mentioned to one of my buddies the other night, basketball is turned into all or nothing. So it's either the three or you're going in for a layup or a dunk. And like if you look at Jordan, for example, in his prime, he didn't shoot a ton of threes. It was all mid-range. He wasn't dunking all the time.
Right, but that was
And
because he was going to get thrown to the floor at one point too.
well, I mean, it was a much more physical game. And the thing is that now they're allowing more physicality. And the one thing that I want to bring up is they're allowing more physicality in the women's game, but they can't play like the guys do on a general scale.
Meaning,
Um,
Elena Della Don is just a freak of nature, and she would dominate no matter when she played in the WNBA.
no, she would not have. She was too weak, and she's done. She's no longer playing.
Right, but she got all of her stats from being bigger. I mean, she was an outside shooter, but
It was because
in the
she was
same breath.
bigger. So
Before I detract,
hold on.
before
So
I detract, no,
I'll
let me
say
say that.
this.
Let's
I'll
think back.
say this.
Let's think back. We got Luca. We got LeBron. We got, let's just say, we had Giannis. Out of any of these players, how many times out of 10 can your best defensive person stop?
Well, LeBron is settling. I mean, LeBron has become a turnaround jump shot on the baseline. I'm gonna take you to the basket maybe, 4 times, 5 times. I'm gonna post you up the rest of the possessions, or I'm gonna be dancing like Michael Jackson at the top of the key and then shooting a fall away 3-pointer.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, and I think with that playoff basketball, like his strongest and best attribute is the fact he's a physical mismatch for anybody, wing down. He's too quick, too fast, too explosive for any of the smaller players. He's too quick for any of the bigger players. But I think he bails people out. And I think that's a way to rest. I think that's a way to not have to take those hits that we were talking about. It's a way to have the ball in your hand and not have to put that effort into getting into the teeth of the defense. And I think he spends too many possessions being unproductive. And then Luca to me is they're the same player to me. Luca is a younger LeBron without the explosion, though. Great vision, got to give him credit on that, but not explosive, can get to the spot, physical mismatch. But if they're not hitting shots, what else you got? Reeves was not Reeves in the playoffs. Jackson Hayes didn't get no burn. And then, so that leaves you with Finney Smith, Rui Hachimura having to produce, and they're just not that guy yet.
But you got to go back to what your original point was. Those guys are so ball dominant, and everybody stands around on the perimeter, and it just doesn't work.
So how much of a problem does that become when you don't have to, let's just say, do your best to beat some teams, but now we get to the playoffs and your best just might not be good enough? How does that refract into what I first started with was, did they get their butt kicked or did they quit?
Well, in my opinion is, and I've always said this, your best sometimes is never good enough.
That's sports,
So
right? That's sports.
exactly. And I think, in my opinion, the Lakers just didn't have the right pieces to go around. They did too much standing around. Same thing with the Clippers. And I also see the same thing with OKC. The one thing that I did like about the Knicks, you guys watching the other night, was as soon as somebody turned their head towards the ball, they were making backdoor cuts. It was easy passes.
That's
And
but that isn't that basic high school basketball? Not even having to run a play, just defender turn their head, cut. If
That
somebody
that
needs
that
help, go set a
that's not,
screen.
but that's not something that's always emphasized or that they understand. And Mackenzie, if you're still here, can understand that.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
Yeah,
So how do
because
you put that in? How do you put that in as a system? Like, what does practice look like? What are the points of emphasis looking like from a coaching standpoint to emphasize those things or even to encourage player movement? Is that a
well,
player thing or is that a coach thing?
I think it's both. And like for example, when I was coaching at Marlboro, they had penalties if somebody turned their head and didn't see their player. They had to make that cut. If they didn't make the cut, then everybody had to run because they didn't recognize the read.
But does that
Because
work
they,
at the NBA level?
no, it doesn't work at the NBA level, and it doesn't work at the college level because you have all these NIL deals, and these players feel entitled.
No, players been entitled since you was going. Come on, let's not
No,
throw the
no,
money
no, no.
backwards into
What
it right
what I'm
now.
no, no, no. Listen. Players were getting paid. I mean, I went to school with Sharif Abdur Rahim and Jalen also. So those guys were getting paid, but they understood a certain level of what you were supposed to do. But as soon as they didn't like it, they left. And here's the problem right now with NIL. As soon as you don't like something, you're leaving.
But that's
And
not how contracts are supposed to be written.
no, 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 but that's the problem. And I think that's where NCAA is going to have to rectify this, where there's going to have to be contracts because otherwise, this is worse than the NBA because they're like free agents every year.
But here's the
And
thing. If the rules of the league allow me to become a free agent, or let's just say like who was it at one time? I want to say Rondo. Not maybe not Rondo, but somebody was like a free agent for most of the year until the playoffs came. It was somebody like a Miami or kind of like a Jimmy Butler, like, oh well, you know what I mean? I'm not technically signed to nobody until the end of the year. They do it a lot in football where I'm a great receiver where I don't have to
it,
sign until the end of the
that's,
year and I'm only
that's not,
signing on a
that's
team
not,
that has a chance to win a championship. I'm not saying it. I'm just saying if the rules of the
that's not the
league
same.
allow that,
So for
why are we going to
example,
get back into it?
let me ask Hadley,
Yes.
let me ask you this. That little girl from Ontario Christian,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
example,
Special K.
yeah, whatever she's called, yeah,
Super special K. Extra
whatever.
special K.
You know what? I'm gonna need you to calm it down, okay? But anyway, like, what penalties would you incur if you were to go after her and say, "Hey, you need to come over here because this is what we got, and you're gonna be in LA." What
So,
penalty would you incur?
well,
And
I
why
think
wouldn't and why hold on. And then why wouldn't you try and poach her and the freshman who I like even better?
so for me as a coach, that's a two-pronged question. For me as a coach, what penalty would you incur? Well, one, I think her father is the coach or her stepfather is the coach of the team. So just
Yeah.
generically speaking about a tremendous player and taking that dynamic out of it, it comes down to me to character and philosophy. For me, kind of going back to that NIL in the 1 year, I have to finish out the year, but I'm a free agent. My policy has always been, if you have a school that you're going to and you're solid there, you're off limits to me. I just think I don't like to spend time and energy working with a kid, helping the kid develop, helping the kid become whatever they're becoming, just for the next coach to go and say, I'll give you XYZ 1, 2, 3. Where I'm at, I've never been in a position where I can say or will say, I'll pay you to come here and play. So that's never been my mindset. And so therefore, in today's chemistry, I don't really factor in as a destination where parents are going to make money off of me and kids are just going to be able to come and get financial compensation based upon, their talent. That's just not me.
Well, they're not gonna get that, especially on the girls level. But your advantage is just you'll be in LA. All these kids are
Let me
not
ask you a
getting.
question. We've done a couple NIL talks. I don't want to keep too far detracted from the original topic, but I understand where you're going. At what point for you as a trainer can you tell a kid that they're going to be good or they should pick a place to be for 2 to 4 years, no matter what their feelings are?
Well, the thing is that in LA proper, there really aren't any good kids that would, there's just really not any. I'm sorry to say that, but
Yeah.
there's not.
Well, the point is, what I'm saying is what he was talking about. You're training up a kid, you're working with a kid to make them better versus having to worry about somebody. Let's just say modern day. I don't know nobody there at the moment right now. I'm not sure if you guys do, but they have been known for just grabbing the best players, somehow having
But
people
that's
live close enough to be in the district, and also going ahead and make sure those kids don't suffer a financial reality of LA, in which riding the bus somewhere, getting a ride somewhere, making it to a game is not a detraction or the hold
I
up in
think,
their progression.
Rodney, I think you don't understand. People that go to modern day, and Hadley, you can attest to this, they all are
Well, I'm
in
not
that.
trying to be them specifically, but I'm saying as a whole, when we're talking about training.
Just understand, they're all in the Orange County area. Hadley, would you agree?
I would say 90% of those kids, 95% of those kids. I know some of those kids choose to relocate for whatever reason that they choose to relocate. And some kids, some parents are willing to make that drive. Those are the outliers. Those are the few and far betweens. Most of those kids are in the Orange County area.
But that's like maybe 5%. So for example, Rodney, you met Melody Peterson. She went to Mater Dei and she lived nowhere near there, but she was not an LA kid either. So what I'm saying is that, and what the difference is with Mater Dei now is they have Jody who was there. And I don't know, did you know that, Hadley?
Yeah, I spoke to somebody earlier this week who, shared that with me. And I hear Kieran is going to Troy.
Going to Troy. Oh, okay.
Troy. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So my point is, and this is what I was mentioning to, sorry, not to detract, but Jody is there. Jody was formerly, she went to USC, formerly the head coach for Washington for many years, and now she's coaching at Mater Dei. And whatever kids she's trying to get, didn't they make it to state this year?
I'm not sure. I know Etowanda went and won Open Division State. I'm not sure who took Division One, but
Right.
yeah, I know Etowanda won that.
Okay,
Well,
well, let's just right there real quick. Let me interrupt with that question. If you had, let's just say, a 6'4" ball handling male or female training with you, or already with you, Hadley, can you keep them without them being offered something other than consistency, good coaching, and I don't know, a community that's really there, that's backing them? What can you say to them when you know you have boosters that are willing to get that same person over to a modern day Edamon, or even I was trying to think of
Ontario
another private
Christian.
Sierra
Ontario
Canyon,
Christian.
abandoned.
Windward, Sierra Canyon,
Windward.
Windward.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly. The list goes on.
right.
Yeah.
So
So
that's
for
what I'm saying. I'm not
me,
trying to go specifically on one, but how do you train that kid, and then how do you tell them don't go for a specific offer because those offers are going to change every year versus exactly, I'm training you up. I'm here to make you better. Our goal is X. Don't get caught up on A, B, and C.
so for me, one thing in the process, for me, we're open to transfers, but outwardly, we don't go out and look for transfers. So for me, most of my using the word loosely recruitment is seventh and eighth graders, sixth, seventh, and eighth graders. And what I try to do is build a relationship with the families. For me, the family is the most important thing because that's going to be the parents, that's going to be the cousin, that's going to be the little brother, big brother, whatever. So we try to build community that way. We try to show that our school can provide the academic, social, and then athletic development to get you anywhere in the country you want to go. Our infrastructure is not set up to really support the NIL structure that seems to be trickling down to the high school, but we're, of course, trending that way. Our football program kind of leads the way for us. And so we've had a number of high profile athletes go that way. So just by association, we're learning how to navigate that. But for me, it's all about we're going to love you over here. We're making a lifetime commitment. There's so many players who can come back and tell you that, our commitment to families is a lifetime. We go to graduations, we go to baby showers, we go to weddings. Those are the things that we commit to. And for families that feel that value, we keep those kids. For families who it's about the dollar today without necessarily the character development or the commitment, then they get caught, going for the banana in the tailpipe, going to other schools. And then when the kid gets in trouble or needs some support, the coaches are nowhere to be found. So for us, the only carrot I have is look, I'm with you for the long haul. I'm going to be committed to the character development as well as the academics, as a teacher here, as a dean here, as a coach here. And then we have a pretty decent resume. We've produced some great athletes in the past, and we would love for you to be part of that moving forward. So for us, that's all we got. So I typically get mid-level kids, low to mid-level kids. If I had a premier player, an elite player, which we haven't had in a while, I think maybe Jay Donald was the last player we had of that ilk. Um, it has to be deeper than just the basketball, and that's kind of how we do it. It's hard to keep those kids though, because now they're paying kids. I remember 15 years ago, if I can just share a story, I had a player come to me back in the days of the what was the league called over at USC?
Say no
Sherrise,
classic. Say
say
no
no,
classic.
say no. So I had a girl walk up to me and she said, Coach Hadley, I love what you guys are doing. My friend goes to your school, but we're going to need, I want to come play for you, but we're going to need books, uniforms, and tuition paid for me to come to your school. This was
That was
my
15
first
years
time.
ago.
It had to be 15, 17, something like that. 17 maybe.
Wow.
And she walked up to me, first meeting, and said that to me.
That's
And
amazing.
that right there, it set the temperature for the culture. And this was a kid. This wasn't a parent. She walked across the court after a game. I was coaching, walked across the court and had that conversation with me. And I told her we would be in touch. And of course, I asked for the parents' information, never called, because as a family, I already know what that's going to look like. You're looking for the highest bidder. If you
Right.
send the kid over there, then there's nothing there for me. So
Well,
we don't even recruit those kind of kids. Yes.
let me ask you this, because 16 years ago, I think my mom was still alive then running Say No. So why there were not that much there wasn't that much talent. So how did she feel so confident to come to you like that? Where did she come from?
So I'm not going to name
Well, not her.
schools.
Where do those people come from? Not specifically her.
No, that's
Where do
what
those
I'm
people and where does that mentality come from?
that
Because as I was saying, it's
that
not new.
confidence. I'm
It's
not
not new.
asking you, hold on. I'm not asking you to name names. I'm just saying, why would she feel so confident to come to you like that? Especially I could understand maybe today, but 15, 16 years ago?
So you know what? I think we were entering into that AAU culture where players were um, being seduced
Oh,
from one program to the next, right? And that was just becoming the culture. And I think the
yeah.
women's game follows the men's game, right? So I think we were getting into that time where people were trying to find out what was best for their kid, and you had enough people who were willing to pay. I had another player, and this was about 18 years ago, whose parents told me that it was between myself and another school. She was coming to us, and she told me flat out, a school offered her a place to live close to the high school, and their high school was a public school, and she was still coming to us. And later on, she went back and told them that she was still coming to us, and that other program sweetened the deal by not only giving them a place to stay for 4 years rent free, but also gave financial inducements. And this had to be about 18 years ago. This was before I actually started. This was my first preseason
So,
before my first
oh,
season at Sarah.
hold on. Let me ask you this. How tall was this person?
Person was a guard. Now, we're talking about the first situation, or are we talking about the player?
I'm
Which
talking about what
situation?
you're talking about right now.
It was a guard.
That
She was a guard. She was a
oh,
guard.
okay.
Very, very good.
Well,
Very well known. No names to be mentioned, but yeah, she was a
no, no,
guard.
no, no. We don't need to mention names. I can deduce what you're talking about. So,
Okay.
but anyway, my here's my thing right now. These and right, I don't know if this is going to go off subject for you, but the thing is that all of these players right now don't realize that because of the transfer portal and the JCs, there are very few spots that are going to be like available unless you're that top tier guard. Like Hadley, you had a top tier guard. I forget her name, but this was 2 years ago, I think.
I think it was more than
But
that, but Jayla Donald, who's at St. John's right now, back
St.
east.
John, yeah, that one, that
Yeah,
girl.
yeah,
Yeah, but the thing is that all these players are not gonna be her, and she was also a bigger, stronger guard. Like she
absolutely.
wasn't little. She wasn't little like me. Like players like
Let me,
me.
well, let me ask you this then. Are the parents quitting the process that's being set down by the trainers and coaches? Or is it kids that, as you're saying, are getting emboldened to say that they don't need to follow the process? This is not what they need to worry about right now. Because hey, we all understand that some of these men and women might make money they're gonna make in this 4 to 6 year period. Some of them, again, they might hurt something, which their only chance is to make more money in a 6 year period. How is it training them to do better, but not necessarily say quit the program as being successful.
It's not that simple. One, because of what I just was explaining. All of these, you only have, how many schools are there? 365 schools. And then you got all these people entering the transfer portal or these JC, and you're not even considering the JC kids. A lot of these high school kids, if you're not elite, you're going to be like kind of obsolete. You got to go a different route. And Hadley, would you agree with me or not agree?
Well, I think the women's game is set up different than the men's, right? So
For sure.
most people would say, you know, it's time for women to be able to come out whenever they want to come out. You have players who are ready after their first year, second year. For me, I think the financial structure of the college game for the women versus the men is still set up in a way where I would like to see young ladies encouraged to do the four because it gives you that degree coming out where you're not making the most amount of money that you'll ever make in your life during your NIL for college. You know, so I think that is problematic to me where we're setting these kids up to have the most influence, the most fame, the most power in their lives between 18 and 21 years old. And then when it doesn't work, you've been catered to during your formative years and you have no fallback. You have no degree, you have no appreciable skill.
And that is my biggest concern is you have no fallback, you have no skill, you have no financial education either. And then what do you do? And that's even for even the players that have made it, whether they go overseas and whatnot. Because some of my former clients, they are now broke working at UPS. You got a degree, but yet you're at UPS. Does that make sense?
Unless you're the manager, unless you owning it. I mean, you know, it.
No, they're not even that. But the thing is that
No, but again,
that
I think you're going
became
the
their
wrong
fallback.
direction. Wrong direction. We're talking about seeking to a program that you set up for them to achieve Division I scholarship so that they can become a lawyer, they can become a doctor. The stuff that I'm saying that you talk to the parents about when they're 12, 13, 15 versus all right, now they're in high school about to be a senior. They are a senior, Mackenzie, and now you got somebody coming trying to coach them. Let's say right now, you got what you're setting up for your summer league, you got what you're setting up for your fall team. You know probably 10 out of the 12 players you're gonna have on the event. How is those conversations need to keep happening, or do they need to keep happening if a player is set versus you got a parent who, like you say, he or she may be looking for a little help this year. He or she may be being convinced by the other he or she family that they're worth it. They're worth the moving on. They should go out for something else. How does that conversation go right now from, hey, we're set up on something to, you know what, we'll be without you. I'm not trying to go there, but that's me. I'm not I, I'm not going to beg nobody to stay. I'll talk to you. I'll give you the reasons. I'll even talk to you about the plan that we're setting up and to go with. But I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, well, if they're going to give you 800, that means no, look, if that's what you need, maybe that's what you should do. But right now, the program we set up, we're going to get you to be a doctor without having to come out your pocket. The program we're setting up is going to get you to be a lawyer that makes $400,000, $2 million a year just off the contracts that they write from the school that they go to. Why are you concentrating on trying to make $2,000 right now?
So for me, I think in just a way of life, for me, I think it's easier to remove a rock that causes the stream to diverge in a different direction than it is to move a whole, river that is going a completely different direction, right? So it's about the genesis. It's about having those conversations coming in as 7th and 8th graders. Look, what's the goal? We do vision boards, we do goal setting, we do family sit down and meetings. Like, what do you want to see your senior year? What's the goal? Most people say college, having a place to go and go to college for free. Most people don't say, I want to play college basketball. Most people say, I want college to be paid for, where there's avenues. The academics are important. The athletics are important. All of those are avenues. And so we keep our families in line with that all the way through. And I think you said it right, Rodney. Some people don't fit that vision. Some people say playing college sports or bust. And you love those kids from a certain standpoint because you know they're going to commit to the process of that. But that's only going to be, I think Sherrise said it as well, 365 D1 colleges. How many people are going to make that? So for us, we stay in a constant shifting before it's too late of saying, hey, look, the grades got to be right. There's different avenues to get to college. Let's write those essays. Let's do everything possible to make college free. And then if athletics becomes the avenue, great. But if not, you're going to be academically ready to get that financial package as a student as well. And so I think you have to constantly refocus parents. You have to also inform them or educate them that the easy route today doesn't set your kid up for the difficult life ahead. I'm not going to promise you a starting spot. No matter who it is, I'm not promising you anything but an opportunity to compete. And when we set that tone, of course, there's kids that we're going to lose. But in terms of our culture, it's going to be a positive culture because everybody understands that nothing is given, everything is earned. And that goes in the classroom, that goes on the court, that goes for me as a person, that just goes with everything. So we're going to lose people. But last time I checked, Juju started off at Windward and finished up at Sierra Canyon. So they lost people too, right? So schools are going to lose people regardless. It's what are you going to be willing to stand for and what kind of families and what kind of people are you going to attract to your program? We may not ever win an open division championship, but we're going to have per capita just as many college graduates, just as many professionals as any other school in this country in terms of where our kids go from high school through college to being good people throughout the furtherance of their life. So to me, that's how I calculate wins. And so those are the people I attract to me. So I think it starts early for me. And if we lose them, we lose them. We've lost players. We had a player who was working out with one of the most fantastic trainers, Miss Smith, out there. And she ended up going to another school who we have a great reputation with and a great rapport with. She ended up transferring. And she still ended up at a low-level D1.
Okay, since that's our topic, how should we restrict? Should we restrict the transferring in between high school versus transfer portal? It can't last. It won't last. But at the same time, you're not asking those kids to come back that tried to go on transfer portal and didn't get picked up somewhere. What restrictions should be on boys and girls when it comes to a high school? Should they have to sit out a year? Should they have to, only play in the playoffs? I don't know how that one should really go. I don't experience that.
Every situation is different. Some people can't afford to be in private school, and so they have to leave, right? And you can't, unless you're paying that bill, which is, once again, setting that upside down dynamic, you have to allow that player to leave. I think it's a problem when you're having kids go from one private school to a more expensive private school, and you are not reconciling and justifying those things. You have kids who go to schools where they're being attacked or they're being persecuted because they're not in a certain gang or a certain group or a certain environment. So I think you have to allow a transfer and you have to treat every situation kind of as an individual situation, which is the way that it was working, probably 15 years to up to the last 2 years. It was kind of working that way. But But of course, the better the trap, you know, the better the criminal, right? So it's just going to continue to be this cat and mouse dance where people are finding ways to skirt and skate the policies, but it has to be individual. There's no one catch-all rule that's going to be fair for the families and also fair to the schools. Because what happens if you move? What happens in some of these split homes where a kid is by court order living with the mom and then by court order living with the father, but they live 50 miles away? Do you not allow that transfer? That kid has to sit out during their senior year for that? That's not fair. So I think it has to be some liberality and individuality with each case.
Well, I think I think that is what they are working on, because what your last statement in terms of where one parent is located versus another parent and the transfer rule, I think that's what they're working on. And they're also working on it on the NCAA level too, because they're trying to uh, kill this little rat race that's going on right now in terms of all these transfers, because this has gotten ridiculous. And I just applaud you for your stick to itiveness, if that's a word, because
You made it up.
Oh, I made it up. Okay. Well, no, simply because you've been in it for so long, and these kids right now, they're all trying to leverage everybody, and they're on the girls' side, they're not good. And it's like
But that's
you have
something that we
limited
discussed
leverage.
before is, and remember I asked your friend sitting next to at one of those games is, are they earning ships because they're just good enough, or that there isn't enough people to really compare to what is good versus bad? But that'll be a topic
Right,
for our
and
next
they're
one. I know we're
breaking
getting
it.
close to time for with us to get ready to close it down. So my question to close this one out to both of you: how do you treat a parent and a player when it comes to quitting? Because both of us have seen, well, all of us have seen a player quit on the floor. All of us have seen a parent detract from what goal truly is because of their feeling, or we just got about game, or he or she didn't play enough minutes. How do you deal
Yeah.
with the quitting you? And again, as a trainer, you've had tons of quit training for free reasons, for travel, basket, whatever it may be. How do you keep? What do you say to one of them when to them quitting on the floor or quitting on the plane?
Well,
Yeah.
I think quitters are we have a saying, how you do anything is how you do everything. So I think people who quit on you in the toughest moments in game situations are people who, until they develop that temperament, are players you can't really count on. So how you deal with that, I think you have to continue to expose them to tough situations, and you have to build that muscle, because quitting is a natural response for most people. Things get difficult. We try to veer away from what is difficult emotionally, physically, financially, socially. So that's a natural response, right? Some people fight, some people run, some people get, stuck. So quitting is natural. You have to build that muscle. But if you have players that are quitting on you and quitting on the team, as a bigger way of looking at it, I think you have to have some kind of consequence in place. And the people who are willing to suffer the consequence, deal with the repercussions, are the players who you have a chance at reclaiming and redeeming. The players who run away from the consequences, typically at a parent's, as a parent is doing that, right? My kids shouldn't be forced to do da 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 because they die. But those are the players who you typically don't mind losing. Those are the players you don't mind getting rid of those players, and they'll cut themselves if you set the standard high enough and you stick to your standards, they'll cut
Right.
themselves. So
Yep.
that's how I deal with that. You know, you give a couple opportunities to have the growth moment, you have the conversations, you explain how it's unacceptable. And if you continue to get that, even in practice setting, you kind of know what you're dealing with. And so for me, we've had several of those players become our managers. And my expectation of them is very limited. Um, I try to keep the ask very small and very minor and very manageable, because I know I can't count on that kid in a stressful situation in a game. And I also know that the ask from the parent is bigger than I'm willing to give. I'm not going to sacrifice the program for your kid. So for me, I let that player cut themselves. I reduce their role if they show that they're not willing to meet the standard that's set. But I never am willing to decrease the expectation of a player, in terms of the things we ask. Your commitment to showing up to practice, your effort, your energy, being a good teammate, being a good student, those are musts.
Okay,
Right.
Sherrise, that was great. That's perfect.
No, I think that you hit it on the head. Um, because people show themselves, and you can't change somebody from who they are. And I agree with you with what you said, Hadley. But at the end of the day, you can't change people. And I think that they, even if you can change them, it looks one way, but they still revert back to their own their own whatever you call it.
Core nature.
So you've
Yeah.
seen it as like, you have a 12 or 13-year-old who they talk completely different to you in a much better way than they talk to their own friends and family. That respect is there. You've developed that muscle where that's it's not even a thought on not cussing in front of you. It's not even a thought on, how their actions are versus they've been around their parent for years and years longer. And we've
Yeah.
as trainers, we've seen them throw the basketball at people, at parents. I've seen some of the weirdest
Oh,
outcomes come from there versus I know dang well they never would do that with me. Why? Because they know it's different. I hold them to a different standard. Why
well,
or how do you say that to a parent right now, Sherrise, when they're looking to, like I say, they're looking for an easy way out. They're looking for somebody to give their kid free training and travel ball, even though, hell, they're 13. Potential is potential. If we just got a number, what would you say between 12 and 18, the percentage of girls that quit basketball that actually have a chance?
so you know what? This is what's interesting. And Hadley, I don't know if you saw this, but they actually put it on the news as well as it came across my Instagram. But and I've always known this, but by the age of 13, these kids are quitting sports completely. And in terms of girls sports, they're quitting it at a bigger level. I don't remember exactly the percentage, but by the age of 13, and this is why I started trying to train players when they're at like 7 years old, 8 years old, to encourage them so that they don't quit, because our obesity rate is so astronomically high because these kids are not doing anything active. And Girl Scouts is not the way about it. And I don't know. It's just completely sad. And when when we
Well, I
were
mean, like you said,
watching your
there's a big percentage of them who aren't, as we say, they aren't that. I don't want to say that they aren't that good, but they're not going to spend the time training. to get better. They're not going to spend the energy
It's
trying to get better.
not about,
So my personal question is the
it's
ones that
not,
actually quit to have a chance.
but the thing is, it's not about training. And Hadley, you can understand this as an educator. It's not about training. It's just about keeping these people active. Because how many for PE classes over there, how many PE classes do you guys have per kid? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, I don't know how to. Yeah, I don't know how to answer that particular part of it. I
Yeah,
mean, you
you
know,
do.
there's
You know.
requirements, and the requirements are different now. Like, you know, you have to take PE so many years out of the 4 years, and then if you play a sport, that can count as. We're a pretty different dynamic because like 75% of our student body is involved in some physical sport extracurricular activity, where I would think that that's
Right.
probably disproportionate with most schools. But I agree with you. Like for me, it's just as simple as getting kids back into park and rec basketball, getting them back into the YMCA's, building the
Yeah.
building the
Yeah.
habit of being involved in an activity.
Well, maybe you can help me with what you call it, Hawthorne, because I've been reaching out to Inglewood and I can't
That's
get a
after the
call.
call. That's after the call. That's after the call.
Yeah, and I gotta go because I
Okay.
gotta.
All right.
Yeah, we can
That's what I
follow
was
up
trying to
on
close
that.
it down.
Sorry.
And I got a 10 o'clock in Inglewood, so
Thank you, man.
Okay.
Thank you. You guys have a great one. Thank you for checking in. Third episode. We'll get this all cut up and sent out everywhere.
yeah, yay. All right, love y'all. Talk to y'all later. Peace.
Love you. Have a
Bye.
great one, man. All right. Thank you for showing up, Ms. Smith, and we will follow up. Thank you. The coaches and the quitter, the coach and the quitter with featuring Ms. Smith this week. Have a great one.